In this video, we'll be going over how to create the perfect music press release with Tomas Fraser. Welcome, my name's Akito. I'm a London-based DJ and beatmaker. In today's video, we'll be covering the basics of creating a winning music press release, down to its structure, writing style, and optimal export settings. Today's special guest is Tomas Fraser, label boss of Coyote Records and all-round PR legend. Tomas has helped myself loads and numerous club music labels over the years to cut through the fog and get featured on the world's leading electronic music platforms. So whether you're writing a press release for your next release, artist or record label, make sure to stick about until the end to grab all of the gems. When it comes to press releases, what should the artist or label try to put across? What do you feel are the most important points? Press releases are about communicating key information first and foremost. Release dates, catalogue numbers, factual details, but should also be engaging enough to lure editors and journalists into want to read more. They receive hundreds of emails about new music on a daily basis, so half the battle is making sure that your press release looks smart, considered and professional. What is the ideal length and structure of a press release? It depends on the record. A press release for a single will be a lot shorter than, say, an EP or an album press release. But I'd always advise on keeping things short and snappy where possible. Structure-wise, you want to keep your key information, artist name, release title, release date, label, to feature in the opening couple of sentences with short descriptive prose, backed up by achievements, unique selling points, radio plays, key DJ or editorial support, making up the body of your press release. Avoid hyperbole at all costs. It's corny and disingenuous most of the time. As someone who reads and writes press releases day to day, what is your preferred format? PDFs look smart, but you'll find that editors wanting to run news stories won't be able to copy and paste segments they may want to include. So that's something to consider. I prefer just good, honest text that communicates everything I need to know succinctly. Word documents work just fine. Is presentation a huge part of a press release? Would you disregard a press release that is made in notes over one finely crafted in Adobe Suite? Presentation is important, like with anything, but I do sometimes get sent immaculately formatted 3D rendered press releases that are over the top. They might look great, but say nothing. I think it's about finding a balance between looking professional and delivering a message that will resonate with whoever is reading. When it comes to the main body and explanation of artist, label, or release, what style of writing do you think is most effective? Would it be something vague, creative, or something more explicit and straight to the point? Straight to the point is best, but it's not a bad thing to be creative with language. The main trick is making your music feel like it needs to be listened to, but without resorting to hyperbole or phrases that simply don't hold any weight. For example, if a bedroom producer puts out a 3-track EP and you get a press release back that describes you as one of the biggest producers in the UK, everybody involved from the artist, writer to editor knows that it's not to be the case. It's always better to infer things about an artist by focusing on big moments and achievements and key support, or something that makes them unique rather than making bold but baseless statements. What is the best way to send a press release to platforms during a PR campaign in terms of timing and approach? I tend to engage editors and journalists about a week before a record is due for release, mainly just to let them know that it's on the way. Not my whole mailing list, but a select few that I think said release will resonate with. You'd then follow up by sending the press release out on announcement or release day to a mailing list and follow up throughout the campaign, depending on what you're aiming for in terms of features and coverage. If you'd like to push for magazine reviews, bear in mind the majority run 6 to 8 weeks in advance. So for example, if your record was out in July and you wanted Mixmag to review it, you'd be sending your press release and audio off to Mixmag journalists in May. It always pays to be prepared. For anyone that hasn't got amazing writing skills like myself but are keen to do the press release, what advice would you give them? Imagine you are on the receiving end of your press release. What would you want to read? How would you like it to sound? I often find myself reading a press release aloud in my head before actually typing anything out, which in turn helps me fine-tune my writing and make it read and flow more succinctly. Have you got any examples of press releases that have blown your mind? There are none that stick out immediately, but my favourite label to receive press releases from are Ninja Tune. They are the benchmark. Can you give us an insight to what would be your perfect email from a new label or artist sending you a press release? Keep it concise and honest but professional. If you can write and enjoy it, be creative. But if it's something you struggle with, just focus on the key details and make everything you want someone to focus on feel accessible. As always, avoid hyperbole. What are your top 3 bits of advice for anyone attempting to execute their own PR campaign? Don't rush to feel disheartened if you don't get immediate feedback or coverage. From bedroom producers to global touring artists and pop stars, it happens to everyone at some point. Don't expect press or premieres to boost your sales. A premiere with Mixmag doesn't mean you're going to shift 300 records, but it does mean that you've got A, a respected industry cosign, and B, increased awareness from an engaged, tapped-in audience. Remember that press is a long game. If you want to maintain a career as an artist, things take time and strategy is important. If you feel like you want to take things further and employ a PR to help, then do your research first and don't be afraid to ask questions. Massive shout out to Tomas each and every time. I hope you gained some value from this video. If you have, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'll leave some videos in the end card for you that you might find handy. Until next time, love.